Every fortune has a price, and today you're about to discover the highest one ever paid. In the United Kingdom, a nation where order and justice are supposed to be unshakable pillars, a dark secret has been hiding for decades within one of its oldest and most trusted institutions, the post office. Prepare to dive into a true story that isn't about a Wall Street scam or a corrupt tycoon, but about how the greed and arrogance of a giant corporation crushed the lives of thousands of ordinary citizens, robbing them not just of their savings, but also their reputations, their freedom, and for many, their very dignity. What you're about to hear is one of the biggest miscarriages of justice in history, a digital nightmare that became a modern-day witch hunt, where the only proof was a faulty computer system and the only guilt was an insatiable hunger for profit and the fear of admitting a billion-pound mistake. If you enjoy true stories that reveal the dark underworld of money, then make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because here, the truth always comes to light. At the heart of this abyss of injustice is a name, Horizon. This accounting software, introduced to the post office in 1999, was supposed to modernize the management of thousands of post office branches across the UK. Small, often family-run businesses passed down through generations were the backbone of the British Postal Service. Dedicated men and women known as sub-postmasters managed their branches with pride and honesty, serving their communities. But with Horizon's arrival, their daily routines were turned upside down. Small discrepancies, which would previously have been simple accounting adjustments, began appearing in the system, indicating losses and deficiencies that didn't actually exist. What seemed like an annoying bug quickly turned into a deadly trap. Money simply vanished, accounts didn't balance, and the bewildered sub-postmasters desperately tried to understand what was happening. They reported the problems, asked for help, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. The post office's response was always the same. It was their fault. "You're the only one," they'd say, "who's having problems with Horizon." This phrase, repeated endlessly, was a cruel tactic of isolation that crushed resistance and planted the seed of doubt. The post office's insistence that the problems were the sub-postmaster's fault and not the Horizon systems was more than just a communication failure. It was a calculated strategy. The company, backed by Fujitsu, the tech giant that developed the software, began orchestrating a brutal campaign of persecution. Audits were carried out without warning by inspectors who seemed more like inquisitors than investigators. They would find the deficiencies pointed out by the system and demand that sub-postmasters cover the alleged shortfalls with their own money. Many, desperate to protect their businesses and reputations, paid exorbitant amounts they simply didn't have. But the persecution didn't stop there. The post office, which had the power to initiate criminal prosecutions, didn't hesitate to use it. Hundreds of sub-postmasters, most of them honest citizens with clean records, were dragged through the courts on charges of theft, fraud, and false accounting. People like Seema Misra, who had worked tirelessly for years, saw her life turned upside down. She and so many others were tried and convicted based on evidence generated by software that would later prove to be fundamentally flawed. Sentences ranged from hefty fines and bankruptcy to prison terms. Parents were separated from their children, businesses were destroyed, and the stigma of being criminals hung over their lives forever. The suicide of Martin Griffiths in 2013, a sub-postmaster who took his own life after being falsely accused of stealing $60,000, is just one of many examples of the human devastation this saga of injustice caused. He is just one of those who couldn't bear the pressure and the weight of the false accusations, proving that corporate ambition and negligence can have a fatal cost. The nightmare lasted for years, with victims living under the shadow of unjust convictions. But while the post office continued to punish and silence its own employees, a small group of sub-postmasters, led by the unwavering tenacity of Alan Bates, began to organize. Bates, a former sub-postmaster whose own branch was shut down due to Horizon losses, knew he wasn't alone. He founded the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance, JSA, in 2009, seeking to gather evidence that the system, not the people, was the real culprit. His fight was initially solitary and arduous, facing bureaucracy, post office denial, and the disbelief of many. They were discredited, ridiculed, but they didn't give up. With every story Alan and his team collected, the proof of a systemic error became more evident. The truth slowly began to emerge from the shadows, and if this kind of revelation captivates you as much as it does me, don't forget to hit that like button. It shows you want more stories like this. The legal battle waged by Alan Bates and the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance escalated, culminating in a massive group litigation order against the post office. In 2019, after years of denial, the truth finally came to light in a landmark court ruling. The High Court of Justice in the UK not only acknowledged the fundamental flaws of the Horizon system, but also exposed the reprehensible conduct of the post office, which knew about the errors yet still persecuted and convicted thousands of innocent people. It was a bittersweet victory, as the recognition of injustice couldn't erase the ruined lives, tarnished reputations, wrongful imprisonments, and suicides that marked this tragedy. Names like Joe Hamilton, Noel Thomas, and the aforementioned Martin Griffiths became symbols of both resilience and devastation. The wave of public outrage that followed the court's decision, intensified by a recent television miniseries, Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, forced the British government to act. In 2024, facing public pressure and the sheer scale of the injustice, the UK Parliament announced unprecedented legislation to summarily exonerate all sub-postmasters who were falsely convicted. It's a belated but crucial step to try and rectify a mistake that cost fortunes and lives in the name of a technological flaw that corporate ambition refused to acknowledge. The story of the Post Office Horizon scandal is a chilling reminder of how the relentless pursuit of control and profit, combined with a refusal to admit fault, can dismantle the lives of ordinary people and shake confidence in the very institutions that should protect them. This saga of injustice and resilience serves as a stark warning, not just for the UK, but for any society. Unchecked corporate power and a refusal to acknowledge mistakes can have a devastating human cost. The Horizon scandal is a mirror for every nation. The truth, no matter how hard they try to hide it, always finds a way to emerge. And justice, however slow, is a debt that society eventually must pay. If you made it this far, it's because this story hooked you. So comment below what shocked you the most and share this video with anyone who needs to know that greed always comes with
a price.